Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this morning's webinar. We're looking at Sage 50 accounts. It's one of the webinars in our management reports series that we've been running. Today is session 4, and we're looking specifically at running your management reports for either a previous or, more commonly, a future financial year. We'll spend about 45 minutes looking at the options this morning. Plenty of time for you to pop your questions in as well as we go. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping before we do get started with the session. As normal, you don't need a microphone for the sessions. If you've got one, it'll just be muted throughout the session. You can't unmute yourself. However, if you've got any questions for us, please get them submitted. To do that, you just need to click the little speech bubble icon, which is on the taskbar down the right. Give it a click, and then you'll have access to that box in the bottom right-hand corner. So any comments or questions that you have along the way, pop them in there. Remember to click send, otherwise we won't see them. And then we'll try and either pick that up during the session or at the end. Today we're joined by Abby. Abby will be in the background helping to answer some of those questions. You may get a straightforward answer. You may get provided with maybe a link to one of our Help Center articles, which guides you through in much more detail. Or if it's a bit more complex, we might encourage you to get in touch with our support team. However, no need to struggle with anything. There should be resources available for you. There is an opportunity to download today's handout as well, just as a bit of a reminder about what options you've got. However, there's not detailed steps in the handout, it's just a copy of today's slides. If you want the detailed information, then do check out the Help Center. As normal, the session is being recorded, and a link to today's recording will be included on your follow-up email, which you'll receive around about an hour after you finish. So probably about 1:45, you'll get that email today. That email will also include links where you can register for our upcoming sessions. So loads to go at. Our timetable currently runs to the end of next month. And also it'll include a link to our recordings page as well. So if there's any topics you've missed, or maybe we've got upcoming sessions but we've run them previously and you can't wait for that, you needed a bit more urgency about it, then do check out the recordings list. Well over 100 recordings on there, different areas of your software to help you get the most from it. So do watch out for that. Now, the Management Reports webinar series that we have been running, we're up to session 4. These are the repeat sessions. So we originally ran these at the beginning of April. We run them over a course of 2 weeks. We run each of the sessions twice, just to give you a chance to attend them. And just to ensure that everyone has a good opportunity to, who maybe just missed out on 1 or 2 sessions to qualify for the digital badge that was available, we decided to run them again because there were some people that were very, very close, and we had a few requests for repeats as well. So this is essentially our 3rd time running these sessions within the last month and a half. So we're up to session 4. If you haven't had a chance to attend session 5 or 6 or the quiz, we've got those coming up over the course of this week. So do get yourself registered. Again, the link will be included on your follow-up email. Right, let's have a look at what we're covering today though. So a little bit of an introduction to today's webinar. That's what we're going to start with. And then we're going to run through a series of demonstrations. So you'll see the options. And this is the order that I'm going to be following as well. So we're going to start with just almost as a bit of a reminder on the previous webinar that we ran, just on management reports. So what options you've got available. We'll then move on to looking at the current year. We're then going to run the year end on that data. In fact, actually, we'll run the future year first of all. And then from that point on, we'll run a year end on that data, and then we'll look back essentially at the previous year, which is in the current status is the current year. So hopefully it'll become clearer as we get through that. Just at the end, we'll explain more about the additional support, and if there are any outstanding questions at that point, I'll start picking up some of those as well. So quite a bit to get through, quite a few options as we start progressing through the various options that you've got available. So let's get started. So the common one, and the reason we've sort of included this session, is the common question we always get is, when we deal with just management reports, so the trial balance, the profit loss balance sheet, easy enough for the current year. We'll be recapping on that one in a moment. But the most common question we get is, I haven't run my year end yet. Can I run a P&L for my new financial year? So, in my example today, I'll be in the, I'm going to start in the 2024 financial year. And obviously, as you'll hopefully be aware, that you don't need to run the year end there and then. And it's quite common to go somewhere between 3 and 6 months into the new financial year, entering transactions, continuing as normal, and then you go back to run the year end as and when you're ready. In the meantime, you probably have that little bit of pressure to run the likes of a profit and loss for what will be that new financial year. So that's what we're covering in today's session. We're trying to cover what options you've got depending on the scenario that you're in. Right, so we might as well get stuck into some demonstrations. As I mentioned, we're going to start almost as a little bit of a recap on the standard sort of management report session, where we go into the trial balance, the profit and loss, the balance sheet. We go into those in detail, how you run them, how they calculate, where the figures come from. So for the current financial year, it's nice and straightforward. You've got the 3 options available within the nominal codes window. So they should just be on your toolbar at the top, assuming you've got access to the nominal codes window. There are other versions of these reports available. We're touching on a couple of them in today's session. But it's the main ones, those 3 icons on your toolbar at the top, that you're going to be using to generate those management reports. So nice and easy, really quick to generate the reports using those options as well. A few tips along the way as well. So maybe if you are running a period end, such as your year end or month end, end of quarter, you might run your management reports 6 monthly basis, save copies of them. So if you are at year end, when you're running a report, your year end trial balance, year end profit and loss, save a copy of it. So export it and save it as a PDF and save it somewhere where you can easily access. So almost like building up an archive of those reports. As part of a year end, it will actually create a company archive. So if you're not familiar with company archives as well, we do have a webinar coming up on that as well. So that will be on the registration page if you want to find out a little bit more. So that's done automatically, but you can take a company archive at any point, meaning that you can easily access your data as at that point in time when the archive was actually created. So it's there for reference purposes. Also, batch reporting if you're on the standard or the professional levels of the software, meaning that the likes of your trial balance, your profit and loss, your balance sheet, you may have other reports that you run sort of round about the same time. You might run age debtors, age creditors, that type of thing, where you've got a point in time where you run a series of reports. Then batch reporting enables you to group them together and run them as a batch. So you run the report once and it runs all of the reports in one go. Again, so you're not sat there waiting to sort of generate an age debtors report and then having to save it, etc. You can just set them all going at once. So they'll provide you with one lot of criteria, and all you do, complete that. So entering your date range, customer range, supplier range, etc. And it'll run those reports for you. Anyway, let's have a quick look at these reports. I'll just quickly share my screen. Right, so to access your standard nominal reports or your standard management reports for what is your current financial year. So as you can see on the status bar, bottom right hand corner, my financial year, it says it starts January 2024. So I haven't run the year end for that financial year just yet. We'll be running that a little bit later on in the webinar. So to access my management reports for that financial year, which is the current financial year on this set of data, just into nominal codes. And then you've got the 3 options along the top here. So I'm going to concentrate on the profit and loss today. That tends to be what most people sort of query. So I want a P&L for my next financial year, or I want to look back at a profit and loss from a previous financial year. So let's just quickly run that. Now, when we run that report, obviously you'll get the standard sort of options. I'll just preview it so you can see that. So we get the standard sort of criteria options. It'll give you the months for your current financial year. Don't get confused about the drop down either. It's not running to the 8th of August or the 9th of September. It does refer to the relevant month. So September, in my case, being month 9. October being month 10, etc. So you can choose what period you want to run that for. So I'll just accept the defaults. And it'll generate the report. Now, I'm not going to go into the detail of what the report shows. Yeah, you've got descriptions and you've got a period column, you've got a year-to-date column. That was fully explained in the session number 3, where we covered the trial balance, the profit loss, and the balance sheet. So if you're not quite sure, you need a bit of a recap. That recording is on the recordings page. So remember, you'll get that link on the follow-up email. So as far as your current financial year is concerned, really easy to get at those reports. Now, if you do need to run it for a specific date range within your current financial year, something to be aware of, then the likes of the trial balance, the profit loss and the balance sheet, when you run those, it is based around full calendar months. So I couldn't run that report for say the 19th of October, for instance. I can't do that. I've got to run it for a full calendar month. But there is an alternative for that. If you need it for, maybe you're looking for the likes of that report, but you're looking for a specific sort of date range. And within nominal codes, if we do go into reports, and if I just choose the profit and loss, you'll see there's a folder for balance sheet, profit and loss, and trial balance in here. So if we choose the profit and loss, let's just maximize that as well. There is a report which, now you don't have access to this if you are on the essentials level of the software. But the other 2 levels, standard and professional, you should have this option available to you. So it's one of the differences depending on your level of software. So if you're on standard or professional, you should have this report. So it's the last one that's listed there. You also have a one for the trial balance and the balance sheet. But when you run this report, I'll just preview it, you'll see the criteria is a little bit different. So it doesn't just ask me what month I want to run from and to, it's now asking for a specific date range. So I can run that for whatever period I want. We'll be coming back to this report a little bit later on. So if you want to run that for a part month, or from let's say the 5th of April to the 17th of September, you can do that. Just a case of specifying the relevant date range. But generally speaking, for your current financial year, you'll probably be looking at calendar months, and it's these 3 options at the top here that you're going to be using. Now, I did mention when you're running reports, good tip is to archive your report. So when you go to run a report, or you click these options at the top, you can preview it, but you can send that direct to file if you wanted to. So if I just run that, and I'll pop it on the desktop, and you might even create yourself a new folder. And I'll just call that Sage Reports. See if I can type it correctly today. There we go. And in that folder, I might even create a subfolder and say, right, quarter 1 or something along those lines. But in that folder, I'll give it a name. I'll just leave it as the default file name, P&L. Obviously, it saves it as a PDF. You can, loads of different formats, but PDF is probably the most common. And then I would just save it. Specify your criteria. And that's it done. Now, what that means is if I need it, let's see if I can find that folder. Just upgraded my laptop to Windows 11, so things are popping up all over the place at the moment. So on my desktop there, you'll see we've got the Sage Reports folder, and in there you've got the copy of that report, so saved as a PDF. So if I just double click it, I can view that. So I can get at that at any time. So it's a good idea to build that up, and we'll be touching on that as a little bit later on as one of the options for looking at a previous financial year, if you need a like of a P&L or balance sheet or a trial balance or any other report for that matter. So it's a good way of building up a copy of your reports. Something we always recommend as part of the year-end process. The other one I want to quickly mention is the batch reporting, which we touched on earlier. So if you are on standard or professional, if you go to tools, there's an option called batch reporting. Again, I'll just drag that window across so you can see it. If we pop into batch reports, and you'll see there's a few examples that you're provided with by default as well. So there's one here where you can run the trial balance, the profit and loss, and the balance sheet simultaneously. So rather than me go through the three icons at the top, I can add other reports into there. I can create other batches of reports as well. I can add reports in, I can take them out. So it's up to you what you might use that for. But just as an example, if we select that one, preview it, specify the criteria, so all of the criteria that's required for all of those, in this case it's the 3 reports, that is merged. So we just specify one set of criteria, just OK that. It'll run the reports for me. So in this case, you can see we've got a tab at the top for each of them when we're previewing it. So the trial balance, the profit and loss, and the balance sheet. Any others, again, you would have tabs along the top. So if you think about those points in time where you run a series of reports, it doesn't have to be at a month end or year end. It might just be, right, well, if you work in a particular, let's say you work in, let's say credit control. You might run an age debtors report and a number of other reports as part of your day-to-day role. So rather than you have to generate them one at a time, you create that batch and you can run them simultaneously. Let's just close out of those. Now there is a webinar recording on batch reporting if you want a little bit more detail on that one. But just to quickly summarize there, I think as you can see, really so really easy to run reports for your current financial year. Right, okay, let's head back to the slides. Find the right option, there we go. So just as a reminder for what will be your future financial year. It is probably one of the most common questions. So you've looked at the profit loss icon within nominal codes and you think, well, actually, it's just really showing it for my current financial year. What have I wanted for that new financial year? So that's probably one of the common questions. So you've got 2 main options for that one. One is to run that standard report from the nominal codes toolbar. And there is an option when you run that to run it for the period future to future. And I'll explain that in a bit more detail in a moment. I'll include that in the demo. You've also got that transactional profit and loss report as well. So there is one for the balance sheet and the trial balance as well. But again, we'll concentrate on the profit and loss. So with that report, you can run that for whatever period you want. So if you are wanting that profit and loss for what will be your new financial year and you haven't run your year end yet, you can easily get at that. So let's have a look at these 2 options. As it's, if anything, it's probably the reason you're here today to see how you can achieve that. So let's start with the standard P&L report. So this one within nominal codes and using that profit and loss option at the top. Now bear in mind, the set of data is still within that 2024 financial year. So if I go to run the P&L, we'll just preview it. So on the drop down, you've got options brought forward, and then you've got the months of your financial year, and then you've got an option called future. Now, if I'm after the future financial year only, Now, one of the limitations is I couldn't just run that for, say, February 2025, for instance. I can't do that. It's basically, it would calculate the report based on anything that I've entered beyond the end of my current financial year. But if I choose future to future, so you just want a simple idea of where your profit and loss stands for what will be your new financial year based on what you've entered in it. So if I do future to future and just OK that, it'll generate the report for me. And the figures I'm after are the figures in my period column. Ignore year to date, it's the period column you'd be looking at. And the reason for that, again, if you did attend the management report session, you may remember that, well, hopefully you remember, I try to emphasize this a lot, is that year to date will always run from month 1 of your current financial year. So month 1 up to whenever you've specified those. So this is covering essentially year to date in this instance would be covering from month 1 of the 2024 financial year up to and including anything I've entered in that financial year plus beyond, so including the future as well. Whereas the period column is future to future. So it's as per whatever period we've specified. So in this case, it's just picking up those transactions that we've entered beyond the end of our financial year. So this is the column that you'd be looking for. So that's the information. Essentially, that's a next year's peer, or what will be my new financial year. That will be the profit and loss for that as it stands. So that's one option you've got. So you've got that available on all levels of the software. The second option was the transactional profit and loss. So again, within nominal codes, we pop into reports. And into the profit and loss folder, and we're after that transactional profit and loss folder. Oh, sorry, the transactional profit and loss report. So if we run that, obviously we can specify the chart of accounts, so the structure that we want to use. But then we could specify the transaction date range. So now it does default to the 1st of the 1st, 1980. So essentially prior to probably anyone ever using Sage, I don't think I've seen anyone backdate transactions prior to that. So it just means it's going to include everything. And then it runs up to 2050 as well. Now this report, because it's going to look at individual transactions and have to recalculate balances, it's going to take a lot longer than the standard P&L report. But it means you can get at the information you're after. Remember, you've got the date picker tool as well. So if you click that, it'll give you some of the most common date ranges that you want. So if I choose next financial year, so in this case, it's picked that up for me. So it's done the 1st of January 2025 to end of December 2025. If I want to narrow that down, I can. Again, you could use part months in there as well, because it is just a pure date range. And all I do at that point, if I just OK that, again, it takes a little bit longer for it to generate that. Still very quick on even on my system. I've only got we've got less than 6,000 transactions. So you probably saw the difference. The standard sort of P&L report just pops up almost instantaneous on my system, whereas just that transactional one, even not based on many transactions, just shy of 6,000, it takes a little bit longer. So obviously, if you do the maths, multiply it up, it'll give you an idea that probably yours is going to, if you've got thousands of transactions, if not hundreds of thousands, then it's going to take a little bit longer to calculate, but just let it run. But again, what you're after is this period column. They're the figures you're after. So essentially, because I've run it for the full, what will be the new financial year, I've run it for that full financial year, the figures, what we've got there are exactly the same as what we got when we did the standard P&L and we did future to future. But again, the advantages of that transactional P&L is that I could run it for different periods within that future financial year as well. So if I did want to run it for, let's say I wanted to run that for, I'll just narrow it a bit first. And let's say I want to run that for, let's say the 5th of Feb 2025 to, we'll go back a few months, make it a bit more current. We'll do that to the, let's say the 26th of April. I can OK that one. And again, it's the period column. That's what I'm after. So a quick question from Susan there. If you're running a transactional trial balance, is there any way you could report on your profit and loss nominal codes only? So if we just quickly run that one, the idea with the trial balance is you run all nominal codes. You can accept what you're after, but obviously the trial balance report itself, the idea is it's not going to let you restrict that. You need to show that it balances at the bottom. If you're after that though, I think what you'd be looking for is either a detailed P&L report, maybe amend your chart of accounts to get at that information, or if you were to run the likes of your trial balance and then maybe just export that to Excel. So maybe use the options at the top, either report to Excel or data to Excel, and then just remove the information you don't want. But by standard, a trial balance is going to show you all nominal codes. I think probably what you'd be after though, Susan, is probably the transactional profit loss, but with a detailed chart of accounts layout. So it's bringing through individual nominal code balances. You don't have to have them grouped together. If you're not familiar with chart of accounts, again, there is that recording available for you. So those are your two main options for running management reports for your future financial year. Now, there are quite a few more options when it comes to running management reports for a previous financial year. So we're back to the slides. As you can see, we've got we've got more than just the nominal codes, profit and loss reports, and the transactional report this time. So when people ask for this, well, I need a P&L for my previous financial year. I've lost it. How do I get it? I misplaced it. I think I saved it, but I didn't save it at all. I didn't print it. How do I get that information? So you've got a number of options. So did you save a PDF copy? A bit like I did earlier in that Sage Reports folder. If I've got that, then yeah, I can just access it as a PDF copy. Maybe access a company archive. So again, we'll cover these in the demos. So an archive should have been created as part of your year end. It will take a copy of whatever your data looked like at that point in time. So we could access that archive, would be in that position, almost transported back to that point in time of whatever the data looked like, and then we could run reports, we could refer to information, etc. If you're on version 31, then you can restore a backup into the practice company. So if you've got that year-end backup, you can access the practice company and you can restore that backup into it. So if you've got your year-end backup, you access the practice company, restore that backup, and you can then view that information, run whatever reports you want. So a bit like an archive, you can actually work on it as well if you want to. Maybe use it as a learning tool. But then as soon as you close out, it resets that company, that practice company. So probably a company archive is the better option. But if you haven't got the archive, then obviously restoring a backup into the practice company is an option for you. Now, within your software, without doing anything, you've got a number of reports that you can run for a prior year. You've got the prior year report itself, which is available from the nominal codes toolbar. You've got the comparative report, again available from the nominal codes toolbar, and then again you've got that transactional management report. So the transactional profit and loss, for instance, we can run that for, again, whatever period we want. But there is a little thing you need to remember on that one, and we'll show you that one when we get to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly switch back to my live company. So we're still in 2024 at the moment. So what I'll do on this set of data, I'm going to run a year end on it. Now, year end is something we run webinars on very frequently. So if you're not familiar with the year end, I'm just going to blast through this process. It should be very quick on mine because, again, it's quite a tiny set of data. We're going to create the archive as part of that, so we can see that in a moment. And I'm just going to click run year end. So if you're not familiar with year end, check out our webinar page, get yourself registered, or watch the recording. So we'll just quickly continue through. It is incredibly quick on mine, the year-end process. Tells me that it's been completed, tells me the new financial year. We're now in January 25 to December 2025. That's what the new financial year is now set to. And let's say we're in a position where we now want reports from that 2024 financial year. So again, just quickly working through those options. So the obvious one, if I'd been saving copies of the P&L report, the trial balance, is to just access that. If I just need to view it, I can access that and I've got a copy. Now, it's a snapshot, obviously a PDF, it's a snapshot of that data at that point in time, whenever that report was created. So it's not looking at what's in the data now, it's just you've got a copy of that report. But it's a nice, easy option if that's what you're after. Let's go back to Sage. The second option was to pop into your company archive. So this is the recommended option. So to access the archive, just go to File, Open, Company Archive. Company Archive is something that gets created by default as part of the year-end wizard. Now, it's been around for a long time, Company Archives. So if you've always worked sort of from the same machine, or you've been very vigilant when you've been upgrading or moving PCs and you've copied archives along with your data, then you might have loads of these already listed. If you're using remote data access, or you've switched PCs and not necessarily copied them across, then you might not have any, or you might just have the odd one. But to access an archive, we just highlight it and then we click Open. It'll prompt me to log on. Now, the trick with an archive is you need to know whatever your logon was when the archive was created, because that does form part of your data. It's a bit like if you've got a backup from 2 years ago. When you restore that, it'll prompt you to log on, and you need to know what your password was at that point in time. If you change it, of course, you might not. So we're just going to log into the archive. Now, how can I tell I'm in the archive? Well, first of all, it tells me at the top here on the very top toolbar, it'll tell me the software I'm using, obviously Sage 50 Accounts, in this case professional, but it then says archive. Got my company name. And you can see at the bottom on the status bar, it's January 2024. So that's the financial year start date in that archive company. It means that I can get back into nominal codes, and if I need it, I can run the likes of the P&L report. So let's just pop that to preview. And again, you can see I've got that criteria that essentially what we started with in the webinar today. So I can run that with an archive. Obviously, it's there for reference purposes. So it means I can get back, I can view customers, suppliers, the transactions, I can run reports, whatever it is I need. But it is based on whatever the data was like at that point in time. Let's just close out. To get back to my live company, all I would do is I'll go to File, Open, and then I've got an option called Company Data. So it just logs me back into, give it a moment, back into my live company. So it doesn't say archive at the top, and you can see the current financial year is now set to January 2025. So I'm back in my live company. I could have just closed out of the archive as well. And when I open the software, log back into my live company, and that's me back where I was at the beginning. So that's the first two options. Again, if you don't have that archive and maybe you want to go down the restore route, you go to File, you've got the option of restoring to a practice company. You'll also get the option if you go to File, Open, and choose Practice Data. You can choose this option here, but you'll need to be on, I think it's version 31 for that one. So use my data, just be a case of you browsing. So I browse for my backup. Let's see if I can find it. I'll quickly pop that, if I can find where I've got my backup. It's in this folder. So I can restore that backup into the practice company. So let's quickly do that. And I'm now in that practice company. Once I log in. And you can see for the data I've restored, it's telling me this financial year start date on that one was January 2024. Obviously, if you've got backups going way back, you could restore those. May find it needs to convert them to access them initially. I can tell them in the practice company I've restored. It's got that yellow bar at the top. And again, at this stage, I can go into the likes of nominal codes, profit and loss. And we can run that report or whatever I need to do within the practice company. So it's a great learning tool, the practice company as well. But obviously something to be aware of is when you close out of that practice company, it does reset it. It resets it back to like a blank company. Quick question from Tracy there as well. Do you need to do a backup before restoring into the practice company? The practice companies are essentially separate, so you don't need to do that. So if I just switch back to my live company, so File, Open company data, make sure I'm going into the right one. Just prompt me to log in. Give it a moment, and there it tells me I'm in my live company again. You can see that from the financial year at the bottom there. It doesn't have that yellow bar on there reminding you either. Right, okay, so those are the first three options. Now we'll look at the standard options that you've got within your live company. So if you are wanting that P&L report from a previous financial year, what options have you got? A couple of easy options. This is something that will be available in all levels as well, which would include essentials, is that going into nominal codes, you've got the prior year option at the top. Now the prior year report, if I just preview this one, what it will do is it will ask me for the current period for the current financial year. So if I specify, let's say January 2025 to, let's include the current month. So we're in May now. What it will do, it will run a P&L report essentially for this period, and it will compare it to the same period from the previous financial year. So if I wanted a full P&L for 2024, what I would do is I would just run this report for the full financial year for 2025. So if we just okay that. Now that's tiny even on my screen, so let's zoom in. So it's pretty much a similar format to the existing P&L report. You've got your actual, which is based on your current financial year, and then you've got your prior year, which in this case, in my example, will be based on this period, but from the previous financial year, so the full 2024 financial year. Obviously, both columns are the same. or both values, I should say, because of obviously the way it's calculated. So it's a good way of comparing that as well. So that's the prior year. The other one, which is essentially going to give you virtually identical, it brings in budget options this time though as well, is the comparative P&L. Again, this is also available in the essentials level. So we run that one. Bit more criteria when we run this one. So again, you'd specify whatever period you want. So let's say the full 2025 financial year. Choose your chart of accounts. You can include budget information if you use the standard budgets option, but I'm going to switch that off. I don't want to see that information in this example. And then for the prior year values, you can choose what information we want to see. Do we want to see a variance value? Do we want to see variance as both a value and a percentage? If I just click show, so prior year values, okay, that one. Now this report, be aware, because of the amount of information that it potentially needs to fit on a page, it'll be tiny. So I'll zoom in to give me a chance of seeing that. I need to zoom right in as well. Hopefully you can see that one. So this is essentially the format that you're going to get. That actual is based on your current financial year for the period and year to date. Prior year is, in my case, going to be based around 2024. So it's another way to get at that information if you just need it for reference purposes. Now the final option that we're going to cover is the transactional profit and loss. So we'll access that report. It's the same report that we've been using so far in the other areas as well. So again, nominal codes, reports, profit and loss, and then transactional profit and loss. Just preview it. Now, if I choose last financial year, so defaults to the 1st of Jan 24 to end of December 2024, I'm not going to do anything else, but if I okay that, and what we get is, we get all zeros. And this catches people out. And the reason for that is we've run a year end on that. Now, if you're familiar with the year end, you'll know that when you run a year end, the software posts a series of journals to clear down your year end balances. Now, what we've done is we've run a transactional P&L report for that full financial year, which, because your year end journals are going to be dated on the last day of that financial year, it includes those figures. So essentially, it's zeroed down everything down. So what you need to do is exclude those transactions. Now, if we pop into the transactions list, and I can see the ledger year end. Now, yours might be you might have loads of other transactions after those as well, so it might be from a while ago. You could always just type in something like, say, ledger, do a search, it'll find those transactions only. So we're looking for the ones, actually got more than I bargained for there. I just need to find the first sort of journal that was posted as part of that year-end clear down for 2024. So we'll just scroll up a little bit. And there it is. So all I would do is I would make a note of that transaction number, 5987. So what I want to do is I want to exclude these transactions when I run that P&L report for that previous financial year. So back to nominal codes, into reports, profit and loss, it's a transactional P&L. We'll do it for the last financial year, so 2024. And I'm going to run it from transaction 1 up to and including, I want 5986. So I want to exclude any transactions that may be dated within the 2024 financial year, but I only wanted to pick up transactions in this range. So the only transactions that would sort of meet that criteria are the ones that have actually been dated within this and or prior to those ledger year-end journals. So I just OK that. So Julie, this will be exactly your query that you've mentioned there. And again, it's the period column that we're after. So that's now got the information on that we require. So that's essentially that's the P&L from that previous financial year. So essentially what we started with at the beginning of the session. I hope that makes sense. So remember, the trick was with that one, if you are using this report, is pop into transactions, find your set of sort of ledger year-end postings, those journals, and then make a note of the first transaction number for the first journal that was posted as part of that ledger year-end postings. And when you're running that report, yes, you run it for the relevant date range, but you also want to say, right, I want to sort of up to and including this specific transaction number. So make sure that you exclude the effect of these transactions because they've cleared your year-end balances down. So try that again, Julie. You should get some results on that report then. Right, now just about on time with the demos today, but if you've got any final questions, if you want to pop them in there, I'll try and pick them up. I'll be on hand as well, been frantically typing your answers to you. So if you've got any final questions, if you want to pop them in there now, we'll try and pick them up before we end the webinar. Again, if anyone wants a copy of the handout, maybe just as a reminder about the options you've got for the relevant position you're in, then do take an opportunity to download that as well. And remember, you will receive a link to the recording of this morning's session in your follow-up email. So you get that around about an hour's time. So if you want a bit of a recap or you want to share it with your colleagues, then just watch out for that one. Just to remind you, there's loads of great information available in our help center. So not just for management reports, anything and everything to do with your software, you should find support in there. Linking in very nicely with management reports as well, we've now got Sage Copilot available for Sage 50 accounts. So helping you to monitor your business performance. If you're not yet using it and you want to find out what it's about, or maybe you've enabled it and you want a little bit of help just to get up and running, get yourself registered for one of our Copilot webinars. It's like your AI digital assistant to help you with those top line figures. So it's a good option. So get yourself registered. We run those sessions on a weekly basis. They're all included on I think it's at the moment when you go to the registration page, it's the link at the top. So it's the first webinar that's listed. Get yourself registered, loads of dates to choose from for that. See what it's all about. As a reminder, this is session 4. Tomorrow we'll be running session 5. Thursday we'll be looking at the business dashboard. I'll be able to guide you through that one. And then on Friday, we've got the quiz. And if you've attended, I think it's 5 of the original topics, 5 of the 6, and that goes from when we run it previously as well. So we'll be combining all of those figures plus one of the quiz sessions. Then you will earn that digital badge, and that should be issued next week at some point. If anyone's about to leave, many thanks for coming along. I hope you have enjoyed it and it's given you a little bit more insight into what options you've got available to you. So hopefully it solves that problem when you're trying to look for that P&L for your next financial year, or maybe someone's asking for a last year's version, then hopefully you know how to get around that now. There will be a little survey pop up as you leave today's session. If you can take a minute to complete that, share any thoughts, ideas, your opinions of the webinar, topics you'd like to see covered, pop them on there. As I say, minute max, and then that'd be greatly appreciated. And your follow-up email, it will be with you in around about an hour's time. Right, looks like we're on top of the questions, so I think we'll end the webinar just at that point. Once again, many thanks for coming along. Do get yourself registered for any other sessions. Have a good look through that. They're all free to attend. Just the idea is to try and help you get the most from your software. and hopefully we'll see you on some of those sessions soon. Many thanks.